Hey, everybody, welcome to the show. I want to welcome back Alex Vonderhaar with Hidden Falls Media. Alex is kind of a unique guy when it comes to media and digital agencies and marketing overall. He's into neuromarketing. I know that's a concept that was kind of new to me a couple years ago when first had him on. So I wanted to bring him back, and he was more than happy to join and talk to us a little bit more about what neuromarketing is, but more importantly, focus on some of the key fundamentals of advertising marketing to get to that point. So with that said, Alex, appreciate you being back on, man.
Thanks for having me. We said we were going to do round 2, and it only took us a year or two to get there, but we made it happen.
Yeah, I don't know when it was. It was at least a year. I know that. So yeah, we get busy, but I'm glad to have you back because I know a lot of what you shared with me back then. We're implementing slowly but surely, and I know you got some good stuff, especially around the neuromarketing and just help for businesses in general, but also looking towards 2025. So we'll dig into all that. But before we get started, kind of tell us a little bit more, kind of 30,000 foot view of what neuromarketing is, because that's a term we don't quite hear very often.
Sure. So hold on, let me put my phone on airplane mode so we don't get phone called like crazy. So neuromarketing from a 30,000 foot view is there's a bunch of Fortune 100 and 500 and 1,000 companies that spend all this money with academic facilities to do research on what makes their consumers actually tick. So whether that's looking at packaging, whether that's, before we roll out a, multi-million-dollar direct mail piece, how do we know that what we're going to actually put out into the digital world or the physical world is actually going to resonate with people, and that we're not putting extra design in there, or that we're not missing the messaging, or that we've got something in some place of our website that doesn't really belong, or that we're not hitting the right psychological triggers, or that we're triggering certain biases along the way. There's so many different variables. And from a 30,000 foot view, neuromarketing looks at the science and the research that these companies have spent millions and millions of dollars studying and just compresses it into a really tight window of here's what the data shows us around how consumers actually engage with brands, how they engage with products. And then we kind of play Robin Hood a little bit. We take from these big academic papers that not a lot of people know how to read. If I dropped a neuroscience research paper in front of 99% of the population, unless you grew up in academia or you spent a lot of time reading these types of studies, you would have no idea what they mean. Yeah. And then not only would you not know what they mean, you would have no idea how to actually apply them into your everyday life or into your business. So that's a lot of what we focus on, is how do we take the super intellectual, the super, widely studied things, compress them down into easily digestible information. And then more importantly, how do businesses actually begin to implement these step by step so they can start to see more return from their investment into marketing over and over again?
No, that's awesome. So it's really, it sounds like kind of once you've got something dialed in, and I know you share this in your YouTube videos, is once you've got something dialed in, a marketing foundation, so to speak, within your business, this is almost like adding fuel to the fire, right?
Yeah, we talked about it with a cake analogy. So every business has a different flavor of cake, and you have to have that fundamental, because if we just slap icing on the side of a board, it's going to fall straight down. But you need that strong foundation of that cake, and you need it in layers as you start to build the cake up. So that way you're making it, one, more delicious, but two, structurally sound as we start to build layers. The other way to look at it is, Chad, if you and I were about to go climb a mountain, and the difference here is that it's the same 100-foot mountain. We have the same amount of time, but I have the anchors to be able to put into the side of the mountain. It may take me a little bit longer to climb that mountain because I have to put all these different layers in place to prevent me if I fall. Mm-hmm. But if I fall, I may only drop 10 or 20 feet from that 100-foot peak. You're going to fall back down to the bottom. Right. So eventually I'm going to reach the top a lot faster and with less risk of falling all the way back down to square one. Because what we see a lot of business owners try is, oh, we put out one marketing campaign, it didn't really work, or we put out a few different ones, they haven't really worked. So they fall back to square one. And we don't like that, because that's a waste of time, money, and your and your belief into your own business, which is massive. If you don't believe that your business is worthy of being in the marketplace, how defeating is that? So when we have these anchors in place as we're building and starting to scale, you actually start to see the results and you believe in yourself more as a strong and fundamental business.
Yeah. No, that's good information. I can attest, coming as a CPA and accountant, coming from a firm, starting my own business, I thought I knew the product, knew the service I was delivering well enough that I was just going to be successful. And man, that was a lesson that I had to learn real quick, is that you need some advertising, some marketing, some foundation there to bring leads in, bring customers in to actually do what you're good at. The problem is, I think a lot of small businesses enter into a marketplace where they know the service or product or offering that they're going to deliver to the consumer, but they forget that first piece. And then what happens is they're on YouTube or TikTok or Instagram, and they see folks standing by Lamborghinis or whatever, and they own a digital marketing agency, and they know the number one secret that to get you leads. So you go from essentially having zero marketing or no consensus or no foundation, so to speak, in your marketing plan. And then you go and hire these gurus, and now you're pissed because you spent 1,000, 2,000, 5,000, 10,000 on a campaign that didn't work, because kind of like your cake reference, you're throwing the icing up against a board, and without anything underlying it, like a true foundation, it's going to waste away, right?
It will. And like I said, it's so defeating for business owners. And oftentimes we're not the first agency that they come to. They've kind of been put through the boxing ring, so to speak. And it's tough for them, right? Like if you've been beat up for 4 rounds and now you're finally getting a coach in there that knows how to move you in the right direction and position things, you're already kind of beaten and tired and worn down a bit. But that's really kind of where we like people, because it means that you've seen what that type of model gets you as far as a return. And it's not usually the financial return that you want. One of the things that I've started becoming way more vocal about is just like even FTC compliance. We're running into a ton of clients that have come inbound to our agency where the previous agency that they were using was not FTC compliant with how they were essentially spreading this brand's marketing message out. And the agency is not responsible for that. The business owner is. And it can be it's detrimental to most businesses if the FTC ends up coming after you. And we don't want you guys in that position. So that's part of it, but also and that's like the foundation and fundamental stuff that we're talking about is, running campaigns that aren't flawed from the beginning, in the sense of like, hey, if you put this out, the FTC could come after you and sue you.
Yeah.
It sounds foundational, but a lot of these gurus, they don't care, especially the ones that say like, I'll get you 30 leads in 30 days or you don't pay a dime. Red flag, right? Or if you don't get 30 leads by the end of the month, we'll pay for everything. Huge red flag, right? Because I could give you 30 leads, but how do you know that they're actually for you?
Yeah.
And not somebody else's leads that I just pawned off onto you, so I didn't have to pay you back and refund your entire order.
Right. It's the same 30 that gets passed around to everybody, right? That got sold into that campaign or that program. No, that's interesting. It's interesting for me. You mentioned consistency earlier, that, building a advertising marketing foundation. So many times we just want that immediacy, right? Yeah. That quick hit. Let's do this. And that didn't work. Let's do that. That didn't work. And then you're just burned by even doing anything, right? It's like none of this stuff works, but it's the true consistency. Just like if you're doing 75 hard or, whatever you do with consistency, normal routine, you fix what's broken or see what doesn't work. You make adjustments. What is working, you do more of it. And it's a building process. And it took me so long really to learn that, because I spent $5,000 on a landing page and LinkedIn advertising, and somebody was going to do it. And I didn't get any leads. And, I had to pay a fee every month. And I'm like, just this after 2 months, right?
Yeah.
It didn't really, it didn't fit well in my mouth, but I probably didn't give it enough time. I was upset, but really ultimately I own some of that responsibility. So if you're talking to small business owners that are kind of struggling with even consistency, developing a process, and that building that foundation, what are 2 or 3 things that you say you have to focus on, and then you have to do this consistently, and then you add different pieces to it over time?
Yeah, we almost look at it as a matrix. So like a 3x3 grid. At the top level, you have your acquisition or attention level activities. So whether that's you have an outbound sales rep, you have inbound marketing through direct mail, or anything that's more inbound based sales calls or anything like that, you're garnering attention that way. You can do social, you can do paid. Any of those categories kind of fit into that top level of attention and awareness. And then the next level down, which is where 99% of the business owners that come to us struggle with, is your demonstration vehicle. And this is where like VSL, video sales letters, aka VSLs or ClickFunnels, really started to thrive. Was they found an easy way to get a demonstration vehicle of your product or of your service for you as the business owner out into the market. So they tried to remove as much of that friction as they possibly could. And then the bottom side of that matrix is monetization. So as you're looking at that, we say that you need one of each category per $500,000 inside of your business. So before you go and look at, hey, I want to do ads, I want to do SEO, I need to be on social, I need to do a podcast, I need to write a book. Those are all different demonstration and acquisition vehicles of attention that we need to kind of just hone in and focus on one out of each one of those at the beginning and say, hey, social is going to be my awareness and attention platform and for the next $500,000. Then how are we taking all of that awareness and attention and demonstrating our expertise at that middle level? That might be through a book. It could be through a podcast. It could be through a multitude of different things. And then that last layer is really monetization. And how are we monetizing that? Is it through services? Is it through products? Is it through direct offers? Whatever that done for you, done with you, whatever that is. And looking at truly just focusing and stacking all of those into a one by one by one. Now, as you start adding more and more top line revenue, you're adding $500,000 chunks as you're moving through a year, 2 years, 3 years, whatever that takes you. Now we can start getting a little bit more broad. And this is where the gurus online are way wrong, is that they're like, oh, we'll get you to 7 figures in 6 months. One, that's a huge FTC red flag. But 2, you're essentially saying that we're going to have so many different parts and components, because if you're only built on one, I can't name a single business that's done that successfully and that has had long-standing power because you're built on stilts. Mm-hmm. We saw this with iOS 14.5 when that dropped, which is where Meta kind of changed their algorithm for how advertisers could essentially put different audiences and categories together.
Sure.
It wiped out multiple 8-figure businesses that we knew. And the owners were calling me saying, what do we do? And I'm like, well, we talked about diversifying years ago. What have you done? The answer was nothing, because they were hooked on that one acquisition channel to move through the process. Gotcha. So looking at that as kind of a defensive strategy too, of, hey, for each $500,000, we're going to start to diversify a little bit and push you a little bit further out. So that way, in case something does happen, you're not totally screwed.
No, I like that. You're kind of managing the risk, as you continue to add elements to your marketing campaign. But just let me kind of back up just a little bit and confirm. So each of the pillars, the brand awareness, the social, and then brand awareness,
demonstration
platform,
and then a monetization.
And every 500,000, $500,000, you do one at each level.
You right? Add another one of those rows of each.
So if you've got 500,000, you're doing one in each bucket.
Correct.
If you're hitting $1 million, you're doing 2 in each bucket.
Correct.
3, 4. I love it, man. That just simplifies it and kind of gives you kind of a blueprint to follow as you're building this out. So let me ask you this. So for us, we're not great at marketing. We started a few years ago with the podcast and different things of doing different elements, right? And mostly related to social. And I think it's on the awareness side.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of here in that middle, yeah, we're educating and everything, but what platform are we really focused on in doing that? We were kind of all over the place, sharing reels, posts, this, that, and the other. We've just brought somebody in to kind of pull that all together and focus. And I'm going to share this with her, kind of what your kind of strategy or your foundation principle is. So this is really relevant to me, and I'm sure it is to a lot of businesses out there. Just simplify it, right?
Yep.
Good deal. Good deal.
And then as you scale, it's more problems in different areas.
Right. So now let's say we're at 500 and we go to 1 million. So we've got a couple, 2 or 3 in each level, right? Where does the neuromarketing come in? Like, when are we ready for that as an organization to kind of like throw gas on it?
It's at the beginning. I mean, if we go back to the cake example, we have to know how many layers of a cake we're building and what the end strategy is, because then we can really organize and structure campaigns and deliverables based off of where your goals are. So Chad, if you came to me and said, Alex, I want to build a 8-figure business. I want it to be sustainable with a 25% profit margin. I want our EBITDA to be X and I want our exit price to be around Y. That is a totally different strategy from marketing and advertising than if you were to come to me and say, this is going to be a legacy business. I don't care how big it gets. It could reach 7 figures a year and I'd be thrilled. The minimum I need to hit is $500,000 a year in top line revenue because I'm taking home 65-70% profit. And I really just want it to float because I want it to be a legacy business I can pass on to my next partner and that they can kind of continue that chain. If we don't know that from the beginning, then it doesn't matter what agency you bring in or what marketing person that you do bring in. You're not really going to be aiming for the same thing together, and it causes a lot of friction. And then your marketing message has friction from the time that somebody first interacts with you online all the way through, because your attitude's going to be different. Your perspective during that sales process is going to be completely different too.
Sure.
But on the neuromarketing side, I was kind of flipping in the fact of like, we really are the icing on the cake. Icing still goes in the middle layers to build and kind of solidify that structure. Otherwise, you're just going to eat a mountain of dough, and that's not really fun.
So there's a little bit more at each level.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I got it. No, that's good. So we are about to the end of the year, 2024. Everybody had a lot of hopes and dreams and everything. January 1, they probably stated them. A lot of them probably hit it. A lot of them probably didn't. And now they're going, okay, I don't want to do that again, right? What are some things, one, that they can do this year still, 2024, to either build campaigns, have some successes, start building out that foundation or perfecting it? And then looking forward to 2025, what are some things that you recommend folks do?
Well, let's kind of break down where trends are moving first, right? AI is coming and it's here and it's not going anywhere. The whole Web3 phenomena is not going away. AI is becoming more and more relevant for businesses, especially when it comes to streamlining operations. And it can be a really powerful tool. Where we see a lot of this going from conversations we've had with people inside of Google and Meta and some of the other big companies is that AI is going to be their next big wave as well. So let's take Google, for example. Everybody Googles businesses to try to find CPAs in my area, coffee shops near me, Mexican restaurants. It doesn't matter what business you're in. People are using Google. And until the mass wave starts to turn their native browser from Google over to a ChatGPT or over to a Google Gemini, which is Google's version of ChatGPT, or starts moving their native browser over inside of Safari, inside of iPhones, Google's still going to be the most relevant tool that there is. Now, with that said, Google and their search algorithms still play into AI, since AI is starting to not necessarily just pull from an existing pre-contained database, so to speak. They're starting to open it up so that way AI can start to scan the web as well in real time. And I think that's where a lot of this is going from the conversations that I've had. One of the biggest investments that you can make, which may not show immediate initial return like a Facebook ad would, so to speak, is investing into search engine optimization. The reason being is that these AIs aren't going to scan the 7th, 8th, and 20th page of Google. They're going to scan the first and second page. And they're going to look for the most relevant information to serve to you. So, Chad, if you and I were long lost star dream lovers and we wanted to fly to Italy together, right? You're on one side of the US, I'm on the other. And we're both trying to get a trip to Italy, and we're going to schedule the entire thing using AI. Not out of the question for what's coming in the future, especially as we introduce agents, which would be able to log into our Deltas app and our Hilton apps and everything else and make these things a reality for us. So my personal agent would know that I want to fly Delta because I have so many miles and I've got such so-and-so status. You may want to fly United and get so-and-so status. And then we ask it to plan out an itinerary for while we're in Italy together, just kind of cruising around doing what we want to do. It'll start to use SEO on my algorithm differently than it will yours for ChatGPT and all these platforms, but it'll also look at our ads as well. So if I'm a restaurant in Italy, it's going to look and say, hey, Alex and Chad are both going to land around 8 o'clock at night. We need to find a late night restaurant because they've been on a plane for 8, 9, 12 hours, and it needs to make a reservation for us. Oh, and by the way, it needs to book the car. But because you and I don't both book cars a lot, it doesn't really care. So then that AI algorithm will start to use Google Ads to populate different selections for us to pick out of cars. We'll say, okay, we want Hertz, and we want to be able to go to an authentic Italian cuisine where we can get rare red wine together. It'll then go ahead and start booking those things for us based off of what we select inside of AI. So looking at strategies for 2025, we have to think a little bit ahead of where these platforms are going, because SEO is not a short-term game. It can be easily accomplished in 3-6 months, which is phenomenal compared to the years it used to take. But being in the first spots of those search engines is going to become more and more valuable. Then as we start to layer in the restaurant selection, while you and I both don't really know Italy's restaurants very well to where we say, hey, I want to hit this one in this city, this one in that city, it'll then start to pick up, and then through ad-based services through Google, push us towards certain selections as well as what the organic was inside of there. So after we make all of our selections, then it's just going to give us that itinerary with everything booked and ready to go. What would that do for your business here, right? Like that's a totally different concept. Or if we want to shift this to B2B, then it's, hey, if I type into ChatGPT, I'm struggling putting together P&Ls and forecasting and everything else for my business, and I'm looking for a CPA in my area that can help me with this. Or if I ask ChatGPT, hey, where do you see the holes in my business as I scale from $500,000 to $2 million? One of the answers that you'll probably get is getting dialed in on your financials and knowing your numbers. Okay, great. Well, and then the response will be, well, how do I do that? And then it might pull up an article from your website and say, hey, based off of Chad Brown CPA's recommendations, here's the next steps to get you there. By the way, if you want to book a consultation, follow this link and it'll point you to that resource.
And that's deep.
It's gonna get wild, which is great because the people that are putting out amazing content and that have been putting in the work are going to get rewarded for it.
Yeah. No, it sounds like it. And if you haven't been putting in the work and don't have a lot of content, or you've got content, but it's not properly curated or in the right buckets or in the right houses, you need to do that. For instance, we're looking really hard at YouTube right now. We've got so much content that we haven't really placed it over on YouTube. And I know that's a big thing to do, right? I mean,
it's the number 2 search platform in the world.
Yeah.
And Google's number 1, and they're owned by the same company, which is Alphabet.
Yeah. So the big thing, my biggest takeaway from this is, one, simplify kind of your approach, the one at every level, the content, kind of the social, the whatever strategy that is, the educational piece, and then the monetization, right? Do one for every 500,000, or thereabouts, simplify it, and really focus on it. But be active, do things, and with intentionality, understanding what's to come, because anybody that's got content out there, like you said, this AI stuff, it blows my mind. I use it every day, more and more every day. And the information that it can get in minutes, just scouring on a basic search, is blowing my mind. So, what else? What SEO is kind of the big deal, having content, having stuff out there, so you're going to be in that feed. Anything else that you can tell those businesses? Like when I started, marketing to me was going business to business, knocking on doors, handing out coupons. If we want to just start doing something, SEO and doing content might be out of our comfort zone, or something we're not going to focus on right now. What's something that we could easily do that might match up with that? Are you just saying we need to do that?
No, I'm not saying. I mean, SEO is amazing. It's literally the backbone, or should be the backbone of every serious company.
Okay.
The next layer of that would be figuring out a way to truly get your demonstration vehicle dialed in. So for us, I'll pull up an example. Because we run a marketing agency, just like every other marketing agency out there, we know how to use SEO and we know how to use paid ads, which means that if we want to target people that are searching for those words, or even on Facebook or any other platform, next to lawyers, we are the most expensive category. At our best, what we've been able to acquire a lead for, if we're just doing plain Google ad search, is around $1,100, which is incredibly expensive when you're looking at, okay, we need to put 30 or 40 people a year into our bucket. That's a big number for most scaling businesses. I'm not clouding that we're a multi-million dollar business. We'll pass 7 figures this year, and it took us 5.5 years to get there. But it's because we built slowly, knowing that most marketing agencies suck at operations. So to kind of flip the script, we said, okay, well, what's a good demonstration vehicle for us to be able to get people introduced to us, know the business, know the brand, know who we are, know how we operate, get why we're different, and truly demonstrate to our audience what makes us unique. So we got creative and we said, everybody that consumes information right now around marketing, it's all online. So we said, okay, well, what if we flip that to print? What would that cost us? So now we do monthly mailed newsletters that are actual magazines that we send out to people every month. We have guest columnists in there that are providing value. And it's a good kind of middle product because it's $27 a month or $100 for the year. And we actually show all the different marketing strategies that we use across the board. The reason that we're doing this is now my acquisition cost went from over $1,000 for an agency client, now drops down to around $40 or $50 for an acquisition of an agency client. So it's getting different and starting to think a little bit more outside the box of, you don't have to just go straight for the jugular with trying to acquire clients, because we're looking at this across a very long period of time. Mm-hmm. Where most gurus will lead you wrong is that they think that these marketing campaigns need to turn over every few weeks, or that you have to stop doing this because the data on the front end is saying it's not profitable. Like if we ran the original Google Ads model, if we weren't an agency and we were a law firm office, which typically leads come in around $1,500 to $2,000 a lead, when we flip that script and say, okay, well, what's something different that we can put in front of people that's going to get them into our ecosphere? And now we get to start dating successfully. And we're always giving them opportunities to engage with us at that higher level throughout the process. Now it's not so much of a sales experience as it is more of an engagement period where we're getting to date, get to know each other. They get to know us. We get to know them. We're building community. We're building just a whole ecosphere around our brand, because I want my time to value for them to be extremely fast, but I want our relationship to be extremely long.
Makes sense. So really, you lowered your cost and you've thrown something that's totally outside the box in front of them that separates you or differentiates you in the marketplace, right?
And we get to build relationships with people that we would have never have had the opportunity to. because of that. I mean, who doesn't want to reach? Right now we have 11,000 people that are subscribed to that.
Oh,
right.
wow.
The goal by the end of 2025 is to have 100,000. But now I've got massive leverage, just like you do with a podcast or any other type of demonstration vehicle, to say, I've got this many subscribers, I've got this much influence over my group, people that typically throw an offer in, which we can help work with them on what type of offer to put in there, typically get, this type of range of results. We can't promise anything, but hey, at least you're getting your face out there in front of this many people. Now let's see what we can do to help you just as much as you're helping us by providing unique content.
Yeah. How many subscribers do you have?
We're over 11,000 on that.
Wow. And that goes out monthly?
Monthly.
And it costs you $27 per subscriber a month?
It's for them. It's $27 a month. For us,
they're paying.
Yeah.
They're actually paying for it.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. I thought you were giving it to just give it and marketing lead, but you're actually charging.
Well, we do that too.
They subscribe to receive it. Awesome.
That's one of our direct mail campaign strategies, is that we actually mail 3 of these out to business owners on a list. We have 500 that rotate out for free every other month. And that way they're getting sets of 3 of these for the first 3 months for free. And that we're just providing value just to provide value.
Awesome. I love it, man. Good stuff. So, there's a lot of information that you shared, a lot of good takeaways, simple things that we all as business owners could implement and start building and be intentional about building and getting to that point where we're adding different, verticals, I suppose, to, or different elements of at each level as we continue to grow and be intent on what we're doing. I like what you said. Know where you're going and what your purpose is and who you are, right? And build that from the beginning. That's very important. So, Alex, man, any parting words of wisdom that you would like to share with everybody?
Yeah, it's time to get different. And I think just kind of what I showed you through the Neuro Insider is a good way to think differently about reaching your market and how you engage with them and what type of content you put out. We do live in a instant gratification economy. There's no way around that. And that's why I was really bullish when I said the time to value needs to be really fast. So how fast can we actually provide value to the person that's coming to us? That doesn't mean that we have to instantly sell them on the 24-karat ring. Our goal is to get them value of some level and make sure that value is what they actually want to receive. So when you're thinking about, okay, if I'm putting out content, what's their time to value of them getting the value out of this precious thing that I can't get back, which is my time? For the demonstration vehicle, how long is it going to take for them during that process, whether it's a video sales letter, your website, a podcast, for them to get the value out of it to where they trust you, they get to know you, they get to like you, and that whole ecosystem starts to be formed. And then the monetization side just kind of naturally happens after that. That's all the numbers game inside of your business you have to figure out. But ultimately, even if I lose a little bit of money on the Neuro Insider to get to acquire them on that specifically, I'm building my ecosphere, I'm building my brand. Would I pay that anyway to get people to stick around and to build us for the next thing that we're going to drop and the next thing? Yeah, of course I would, as long as the math works. And then figuring out through data and analytics and tracking, which we now all have the tools of and no excuse not to be using, what does that look like across the entire lifespan of my business? Now, we're playing the long game with this because I'm not trying to sell in the next few years. So I'm looking at that from a different perspective. But if I came to this and said, hey, I'm looking to sell the business in 2 years and we need to hit these specific metrics, then the game starts to flip a little bit. But if you don't know that end outcome first, then how you structure your time to value, how you structure your offers, and everything else starts to change a little bit.
Yeah. No, I love it, man. Alex, thanks again, buddy. It was good having you on.
Chad, I appreciate it. Guys, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me.
All right. Where can they find you?
Yeah. Instagram at alex.vonderhaar, VONDERHAAR, or you can go to our website, hiddenfallsmedia.com.
All right. Love it. See you, everybody.